Welcome back to Harmonize Your Life, Conversations on Self-Care for Women of Color podcast with your host, Dr. Toni G. Alvarado. We'll be right back with another intriguing and empowering conversation. Stay with us. Well, I am again excited to have you with us today. I am super excited about my guest on today. This woman of God is a woman that I have admired. I admired her from afar, and then the Lord allowed our paths to cross many, many years ago. And after our paths crossed, we connected in heart and in spirit and in mission. And we worked together in several contexts. And I'm going to read her bio to you. She has an extensive and impressive bio. You know, some people have a whole lot of words and no work behind it, but not this one. I'm sorry. This woman God has hurt. And you'll understand when I get done reading just a few excerpts from her bio. I'm just going to turn my mic down just a little bit because it seems like I'm getting some feedback. Okay, so the Reverend Dr. Jessica Kendall Ingram has served as the Episcopal Supervisor for the First Episcopal District of the African Methodist Episcopal Church since July 4, 2012. Dr. Ingram oversees the work of the Women's Ministry Society with a membership of over 5,000 women, the Young People's Division, and the ministers' spouses for more than 300 churches in Delaware, New England, New Jersey, New York, Pennsylvania, and the British Overseas Territory of Bermuda. She is the first supervisor who is an ordained elder in the AME Church, served in the AME Church, serving in its capacity in the history of the First District. Reverend Ingram holds the distinction of being the executive director of planning for the hosting of the General Conference of the AME Church in 2016. This conference was attended by over 40,000 persons. Reverend Jessica's work with the Women's Missionary Society started at a young age. She was a YPDer at Wayman AME Church in St. Louis, Missouri. And in 1975, she served for a year as missionary teacher in Monrovia, Liberia. She taught English in Monrovia High School and worked with the pastor in implementing outreach missions programs. After her marriage to Reverend Gregory G.M. Ingram, she worked with the Women's Missionary Society at all their assignments, inclusive of Allen AME, Alton, Illinois, St. John AME, Springfield, Illinois, Quinn Chapel AME in Chicago, Illinois, and Oak Grove AME in Detroit. From 1987 to 2000, Reverend Jessica, as she is affectionately called by many, served as the full-time assistant and pastor of Oak Grove AME Church in Detroit, Michigan, where she established comprehensive ministry to women. In 1992, while at Oak Grove, Dr. Ingram founded the LIFT Women's Resource Center to address the needs of women who are recovering from physical, mental, and substance abuse. The center has served more than 30,000 women since its inception. She's an accomplished writer. Dr. Ingram has self-published 3 widely read and highly praised books: The Journey Inward, Still on the Journey, and A Journey in the Experience of Prayer, a guide for the Pilgrim Traveler. In 1997, she was featured in Ebony magazine as one of the 15 top African-American female preachers in the United States. The African-American Pulpit, considered to be the definitive journal on preaching in Black America, named her one of the 20 great African-American revivalists. Her sermon, The Silence of God, was included in the journal along with a CD. In June of 2019, Reverend Jessica was chosen as the morning lecturer at the 105th session of the Hampton Institute. She is one of a small group of women who have had this distinction and honor. Dr. Ingram is the past president of the Supervisors Council of the African Methodist Episcopal Church. She has received numerous awards from civic groups, community organizations, and seminaries she has attended. She has been a proud member of Delta Sigma Theta since 1966. 55. And she has become how many years?
55.
55 years, wow. When she became a charter member of the Epsilon Psi chapter at the University of Missouri, Columbia. Dr. Ingram has been married to Bishop Gregory Ingram for 43 years now, or more than 43 years?
44 in June.
44 in June. And they are the proud parents of Jennifer Ingram McCoy and have welcomed to their family Gregory McCoy. They have two beautiful granddaughters, Jada and Gabby. And when you follow her on social media, honey, you're going to know about Jada and Gabby. And you're going to know about Jennifer and that food truck.
Indeed.
So welcome to the Harmonize Your Life podcast, Reverend Jessica.
Thank you, Dr. Toni. It's good to be here. I am super excited.
I'm super excited to have you. It's a long time coming.
Yes, ma'am.
Long time coming, but you know I wasn't going to be able to do this podcast for long without having your voice and your input, your insight, your wisdom, and your experience that you bring.
Well, I'm honored. I truly am honored and blessed to be a part of this experience, and I really admire what you're doing. You are walking in your passion and purpose, and you are indeed claiming it, and it's wonderful.
Well, you know what? My new mantra is live until you die, right?
Live until you die. That's right. Your mom was teaching that, right?
Yeah. And I'm caregiving for my mom. My sisters and I, we're caregiving together as a family. And this journey with mom has really taught me how to just pursue life and live every moment of it, enjoy every moment of it. As they said in the what was the movie with Viola Davis and Denzel Fences?
Oh yeah.
And that the father would say you got to take the crookeds with the straights. Yeah. So I'm learning how to take the crookeds with the straights. And making lemonade out of lemons and just doing what we do, right?
That's what it's about.
That's what it's about. Well, Dr. Ingram, I asked you to come on to our podcast this week to share about just talk about spiritual formation. When I started the podcast last year in 2020, I started this podcast, and this is a lifestyle podcast. So we talk about health, wellness, fitness, mental health, financial health, just the whole gamut of life, relationships, occupational wellness, all those kind of things. And of course, we can't talk about wellness and fitness and wholeness without talking about our spiritual life.
Absolutely.
We cannot. And one of the things that I appreciate about this experience with the podcast is that it's allowed me to marry two disciplines that I am passionate about. Number one, my passion for ministry, my passion for theology and Bible, and then my passion for health and wellness. And I have found in this podcast a nexus and a way to marry the two. And I've really developed a theology of self-care that includes our spiritual health, our mental health, our physical health, our financial health, our relationships, and our occupational wellness, that we're fulfilled in our work and understanding our purpose and destiny and able to walk that out. And so, you being who you are a spiritual director, and you've done a lot of work in spiritual formation. I've sat in many workshops that you've taught. I've listened to you preach over the years, been a part of many women's conferences that you have preached in, and just have been blessed by your ministry. And then in our one-on-one conversations, and I've attended your pastor's retreat, and looking forward to more of that. And I know you're going to share more about some stuff that you're doing in the future as you prepare for retirement from from your work as a supervisor in the AME Church. You and Bishop Ingram are preparing to retire, right?
That is absolutely true. July the 10th, it'll be over. But who's counting?
But you are, because you started counting last year.
And then I stopped, remember?
And then you had to start counting again.
I don't put the days up there anymore.
You don't put the days up there anymore.
No.
Yeah, because God has a way. Many are the plans of a man or woman's heart, but it's the purpose of God that prevail. But Dr. Ingram, you have been teaching us for years about spiritual formation. And one of the things, this podcast is we want everybody to listen, but it's dedicated to women of color.
Right.
And I believe that God has called me to bring this message of self-care, health, wellness, and wholeness to our community. And when we talk about spiritual directors and spiritual direction, spiritual formation, those terms are not common in African American circles,
right?
In our church circles. Having gone to seminary myself and studied in several different traditions, Christian traditions, I've heard the term spiritual formation. I took classes on spiritual formation in my DMin work. And I visited here in Conyers. I'm blessed to have a monastery near my home, about 15, 20 minutes from my home, that I've spent time with. And it's run by a order of monks, a Catholic order, a Benedictine order of monks. And I've gone there and I've sat with the spiritual director there. But it's just not a common term that we hear in African American circles. And you're one of the few African American people, women particularly, and ministers who are writing in this space, in the space of spiritual formation. And you and I have talked about doing some work together in that space because it's just not that common in our tradition.
Right. Well, that's absolutely true. Spiritual formation or being a spiritual director has been pretty much relegated to the Catholic faith. And to study it, you usually have to go, in the past, you usually have to go to a Catholic place. Like you said, you go to a monastery. And so let me just back up and say that although I have been, like most of us, in church all of my life, it wasn't until 1982. I was fully grown, fully married, been working in the church. My husband was a pastor, et cetera, et cetera. I remember very clearly, Dr. Toni, that in June, probably like June the 4th of 1982. Now, I'm not one that says that I can hear God's voice all the time. But I heard God speak to me and say, you are working for me, but you don't know me.
Wow.
Because you don't spend time with me. God clearly said that to me. You are working for me, but you don't know me because you don't spend time with me. Now, at that time, I knew nothing about the term spiritual formation, none of that. I just know God told me what I needed to do, which I have been teaching about now for like 30 plus years.
Wow.
And so I began, and what I'll talk about a little later, I began the discipline that I practice every day. And God told me specifically what to do in terms of my spiritual nurturing. And I have been faithful to that since 1982. But fast forward, my husband and I moved to Detroit from Chicago. We have served in Chicago. That's your home?
Yes.
Southside. Yes. We have served in Chicago for 7 years at Queen Temple AME Church on Wabash.
Okay.
And that was when God spoke to me. Yeah. Because it was a difficult church, and I was so busy working, trying to prove myself. Anyway, so when we moved to Detroit, to Oak Grove, at that time, I was in ministry, I was ordained, but the church was not accustomed to having a pastor's wife who was an ordained elder. And so I didn't want to go in there, bombard them and saying, I'm going to be the assistant pastor, blah, blah, blah. So I got a job as a chaplain at a Hudson Hospital here in Detroit. And I was working in perinatal care. And what I had to do was to minister to women who lost their babies before birth or right afterwards. And it was a very depressing job because I would have to go in a chapel and the little babies with bodies would be in there, try to minister to the mothers, etc. So after these services, the bodies would be brought into my office. And on this particular day, the transportation people completely forgot that the baby was there. And so here I am in my office all day with this baby that was dead. And I said to myself, this is not it. And so the next day that I came in, I was letting them know that plus Dr. Toni, I was making $10 an hour. This is 1987 with 3 degrees. So anyway, the day that I decided to leave Hutzel, one of the Catholic nuns that came to me, only God must have had her to come, and she showed me a brochure. She said, I think this is something that you would be interested in. Wow. And when I read it, it was about a spiritual director internship at Columbia Center, which is right outside of Detroit. And when I read it, there was such an agreement in my spirit. I said, I want to explore this. And so I enrolled in that program. This was back in the late 1980s.
Wow.
And I was the first African American, period, a Protestant, to enroll in that internship program. So for 2 years, I studied spiritual direction and got certified in it. So that's how it started. And then it has just grown over the years, my interest in it, my passion for it, my reading about it. I got all kinds of books here. Like you, I know you got books on everything, right?
And I did my MDiv work. My MDiv work was in spiritual formation. The Pentecostal Theological Seminary in Cleveland, Tennessee. My major was Christian formation, which is spiritual formation, but they call it Christian formation and discipleship.
Okay, you were at Cleveland? In
Cleveland, Tennessee. Yep, that's where I got.
I was just talking with Bishop Coletta Vaughn, and she's doing a master's there.
Yeah.
Holy Spirit of Pentecost.
Yeah, that's what we got. Yeah, she actually posted yesterday one of the book, an excerpt from one of the books I was asked to write a chapter in. With Dr. Leroy Martin, and but yeah, so that's where Jonathan and I, Bishop Alvarado and I, got our MDivs there. We would drive from Atlanta to Cleveland, Tennessee, 2 hours one way and 2 hours back. While we growing the church and small kids, oh my God, I don't know what we had to be. We must have been on something at that time of our life. Never do that again. It was crazy. We were younger, of course, but I must have been taking something. I don't know, and it wasn't just it was the anointing. And you know what? I could tell when the anointing lifted too. Because when the end, I was like, God, if you don't help us,
help me to get out of this.
Help me get out of this. But that's what I majored in my MDiv. Dr. Cheryl Bridges Johns was my MDiv supervisor. She was the one that was my reader for my thesis. And then when I went into my DMin work, of course, was in leadership, and I took a spiritual formation class with Dr. Mara Crabtree at Regent University in Virginia Beach. And I'll never forget, she took us to this retreat site, retreat site way up in the mountains in Virginia. And I mean, it was one of the places that you didn't have phone service or anything. And it was similar to the monastery that I go to sometimes here, very simple, plain, We ate as a group. We would get together every morning for prayer. And they had a bell. I'll never forget. They had a bell that you would actually pull to ring. And every morning she would select one of us to ring that bell. And we would be out there early in the morning. And it was, our DME cohort. And it was a very spiritual experience. I mean, we prayed, we ate together, we reflected, we journaled. It was all a part of that spiritual connecting with God, connecting with nature, hearing God's voice, listening, all of that stuff. Contemplative prayer, all those things.
Well, you, Dr. Toni, you are an expert in this.
No, I'm not. I'm not an expert. I just experienced it. I've just experienced it. But you are one who really have been teaching us and leading us in this space. And I mean, honestly, I think that's one of the reasons why when we met, our hearts connected. Because it is something that I've always been, I've always been concerned about. And you said something I want to go back to, Dr. Ingram. You said you were working, and how many of us been there, done that, and even now we have to stop and make sure we're not getting off into this. You said God told you, you are working for me, but you don't know me. And how many ministry leaders need to hear that? Or have
yeah. And as I look at what I see myself and God leading me to do in this next season of my life, and I'm working on that now, a great deal of my focus will be on spiritual care, spiritual direction for pastors, because these 45 plus years in ministry, being a pastor myself, as well as being surrounded by them, I am acutely aware that we are skewed to one side in terms of doing the work. Men cannot be accused of not engaging in the work. And I think that during this pandemic, we're working even harder. This stuff that we're doing right now, this technology and virtual stuff, it requires even more. It's even a whole different energy level. Every time I get on Zoom or StreamYard, I feel myself getting anxious and say, anyway, that's the other side. But
I hear you.
What I know for sure is many pastors substitute their relationship with God with the work that they do. And I've often taught and said, we are not our gifts. And just because we are gifted, because the gifts are for the body, and just because we are gifted and we can preach and we can teach and we can sing, it does not mean that we have that personal relationship with God. And that does not come through our work. The only way that it comes is through intentionally spending time in the presence of God. It sounds simple, but it's major. And I think that I would pray that one of the side experiences, and I don't want to call it a side experience, but one of the things that should have happened in this pandemic is rather than us speeding up, we should have been slowing down.
And I think we did at first.
Because we were forced to. We were forced that sheltered in.
Yeah, and we were shocked.
Yeah.
We were like, what's going on here, God? What's up? And everybody was but then once the shock of it all wore off, then everybody started getting their cameras and getting their lights and getting everything together and do this and do that. And if we're not careful, we can get back into that place, and we will, as my husband says, we would have wasted a good pandemic because we will come out of it worse than we were before we went in.
Yeah. Do you find that as a pastor that in order to keep your congregation engaged, that you find yourself doing, or you're having your ministers to do more things on social media, on Zoom, in order to not lose them? And that takes, And it
takes a lot, and we're probably still losing people because everybody's not connecting even to the stuff that we're doing in social media and
guess what?
the live stream services and all those things. And it's a different place. There's not a pastor alive, a person alive right now who's lived through a global pandemic. The last time there was a global pandemic was 2018. And so none of us know what we're doing. We're all kind of groping in the dark here. It's crazy, but I'm glad that you shared your journey into spiritual formation, but you said something that was key. You said that we are not our gifts. And the only way that we can really, really be nurtured spiritually is by spending time with God. My thing, I'm about self-care, I'm about health, I'm about wholeness, wellness. What role does our spiritual health play in our overall health? Can you talk to us a little bit about that?
Well, it's absolutely essential for our well-being, because the one who created us wants to spend time with us so that we can know more about what God has for us, and to be able to give to God what God expects of us. We cannot neglect our own spiritual well-being and expect to live a full life.
Yeah.
And Dr. Toni, particularly during these very difficult times. But I know for sure that what has kept me sane, what has kept me emotionally stable, that's not to say that I don't have my times. I mean, I got a therapist, I got a coach, and I'm getting ready to give you for my physical, etc. But it's no way that we can effectively move through this life and we don't have that grounding. So
you said grounding, and that's good. So our spiritual health then becomes the grounding
from which everything else springs. From which everything else springs is got to be there. It absolutely has to be there, and we've got to stop making excuses. We got to stop pushing it to the side. It has to become a part, just like with you, that not exercising is not an option for you.
Right.
I mean, it's just a part of who you are. And so for me, since 1982, it doesn't even cross my mind to not get up. I'm a morning person.
Yeah, because you I want y'all to know, Dr. Ingram is up praying every morning. Can you say every? If you writing, say every. She's up praying every morning. Is it 6 o'clock? Is your prayer hour?
Well, I get up now at 4:45 because since the pandemic, let me tell you something. Now, since the pandemic, God spoke to us, my husband and I, said that we have to pray every day, Monday through Friday, with our district at 6 a.m. And I'm like, God, that's my personal prayer time. So now I get up at about 4:30 so that I can have some time before I get on the call with the 6 a.m. call. But it's just ingrained in me now. Reverend Courtney Jenkins, we were in a workshop, and she was saying to the people, she said, Reverend Jessica has been getting up and going before God every day as long as I've been living. I think she's 37. And I'm not saying this by any way of bragging, no kind of way. I'm just saying that I'm glad that I heard God's voice. And I'm glad that I was obedient to that voice. And I know the difference is made in my life, aside from my gift of preaching, my gift of teaching, my gift of organization, and etc. I'm clear that all of that has to be connected to this spiritual conceptual framework of being with God. And I am passionate about establishing opportunity and sacred space. I don't know if you remember this. This is the wonderful portfolio that I told y'all at that retreat.
Oh my God, that retreat was and I can't wait. When are you gonna do another one? We need it.
Well, look, Toni, I mean, Dr. Toni, I was planning last year before the pandemic.
I remember because
I kept looking for places because I said, when I retire in October of 2020, I'm going to have my first retreat and then the pandemic came. And so it put everything on hold. But now I'm getting ready to initiate the Ingram Difference, which is going to be dedicated to spiritual formation for pastors and church leaders. And
the
so
Ingram Difference. I love that.
Ingram Difference. How you like that?
I love that.
God makes a difference. Listen, I'm excited here. Yes,
I love that. And it's going to be dedicated to spiritual formation?
Oh, yes.
Oh,
I'm going to provide individual spiritual formation for church leaders and pastors. I want to focus particularly on them because of this tendency to not engage in it. Retreats for church leaders, small retreats. And, of course, initially until this pandemic lifts, all of this will have to be via Zoom, etc. I want to do training, Toni, for lay people to become spiritual. I can't call them directors, but spiritual companions. That's what I did my men in, and I actually did it at our local church. And so I want to have training sessions.
So we can send our leaders to your training to become spiritual.
You got it.
Spiritual companions.
Yeah, and I can't use the word spiritual director because you have to be certified in that. Okay. But you can be trained as a lay person to be a spiritual companion and learn how to engage in spiritual direction with other lay persons.
Oh my God, I can't wait. That's going to be so wonderful. I'm signing up. I'm signing up for me. Number one, I'm coming to the retreats because I need it. I need that place. And when I came to your retreat before, it was so grounding for me. It was a place where I could just exhale and breathe. Mm-hmm. And of course, you don't do anything halfway. So it was just the excellence. Oh my God, let me tell y'all something. Dr. Ingram doesn't do anything. I went to her. What was that? What party did you have? Was that your
celebration of women?
Your celebration of women. Oh my God. She treated us like queens. It had to be. How many of us were there?
About 200.
About 200 women that she invited, that she took care of us, loved on us. All we had to do was get there. But everything else was on her. I mean, and that's the other thing.
Remember what it took for you to get there? How the plane, the travel was.
Yeah, because our flight was coming out of Atlanta. There was 7 of us on that flight that got delayed, but we made it. And I mean, we got there, the party on Friday night, and then the brunch on Saturday morning. It was just phenomenal. It was one of the best times. I'm so glad I came. So, I don't like missing your parties because you get some of the best parties. But the retreat was and it came at a time of the year in October where usually one of my books that I read on spiritual formation and spiritual disciplines. They talk about knowing your rhythm and your time of year when you really need that. Mm-hmm. Refreshing. It seems like to me, October is one of those times where I usually have to go in and refresh from the myself. I have other stopping points throughout the year, but October has always been a stopping point for me in the year. And so for you to have that retreat at that time, it breathed so much. It was what I needed to make it through the rest of the year.
Right. And I really was just so honored. And truthfully, when I gave it, after people signed up, and I intentionally crafted it to be just 12 people. And after I did, I said, okay, God, what am I going to talk about? And the Lord instructed me, but it was more of a time for those who came to be able to share in a safe space. And that's what spiritual direction is about. Is creating that safe space, because when you get up into a person's relationship with God, that's very personal. And they have to know that they're in a space where whatever it is that they say, that it is sacred, and that it's okay, and that you are listening, not giving answers, but you're listening. Most pastors do not really have someone in their space who listens to the authentic person that they are spiritually, inwardly. And I'm going to say especially brothers, and I'm praying that there will be men who do not see this as something I'm doing for women, because I found that men truly are not open about where they are with God.
Oh, wow. So what spiritual disciplines do you recommend for those who are listening? What spiritual disciplines do you recommend we engage in order to maintain our spiritual health?
Well, the spiritual discipline of, and I'll put it in a broad category of creating space for God.
Okay.
Now, however that space and that time looks like in your life, you have to decide that. But just as we create space to do everything else that we want to do, we need to, and this really is just coming to me now as I'm talking, create.
And I'm write these down. You said creating space.
Create the discipline of sacred space. Yes, it is making a decision that God is important enough in my life that on a daily basis, I'm going to create that space that is not crowded and cluttered with a whole bunch of other whatever. But this is my time for just God and myself. Let me ask you this, Dr. Toni, since you have been in this pandemic, and although your husband and you have pastored together for years, are the two of you spending more time with each other now?
Yeah, we are.
You're together more?
Yeah.
Are you seeing a difference?
Yeah, I'm seeing more of a connection.
More of a connection. Because although you all were working together, you were not as together.
Yeah. I'm feeling more of a connection, our intimacy, even in our conversations. It's just and you know what? And I feel like our friendship has grown. Our friendship with one another has grown.
And that's what God wants from us, is the friendship. Wow. And that's going to come through the discipline of time. It's the discipline of time. Years ago, someone told me a song. I can't think of the name of the song or the person who sung, but it was saying, God was saying, I miss my time with you.
Yeah.
I miss my time with you. God wants time with us. So it's the discipline of creating space. And then I would say also the discipline. Now everybody doesn't like to write, but it's a discipline. I write in my journal every day.
Okay.
Every day, because it connects me with myself. It's a space where I can be honest.
Okay.
I don't have to try to be fake, because we fake it a lot. And so the discipline of keeping a journal of writing out. We moved back to Michigan a few months ago, and in unpacking and packing, I got so many journals, but when I go back and I read them, I'm like, oh God, I'm still stuck there. I've moved on from there. But it's a mean of staying, and it's healing. It's healing. I'll just say, years ago, Dr. Anita Reams, who knows that I like to keep journals, gave me a big black journal, and she wrote in the front of it, Dear Jessica, write until it hurts, and then write until you're healed. I never forgot it.
Write until
it hurts, and then write until you heal. And you know, Toni, that on this journey, there are a lot of hurts, whether it's from members of our church who disappoint us, whether it's our children, the things that they do, and our wonderful, good-looking, anointed husbands. Husbands. Yeah. And so this is a discipline of writing. And in this day and age, you know, and I like doing it pen to paper.
Yeah, me too.
It's a different kind of connection as opposed to, you know, the phone. So that discipline, and we could talk more about that. And to me, reading is a discipline.
Yeah, the discipline of reading.
You need to have a library that ministers to you. When you sit and you have your quiet time, if you don't have something to guide your thoughts, you're just going to think the same thing over and over again. Joan Chittister, everybody knows, is my favorite spiritual writer. And this book, the Psalms Meditation for Every Day, I think I've read it every day for 10 years.
What's the name of that book?
The Psalms, Meditations for Every Day of the Year.
Okay, the Psalms. Okay.
Yeah, Joan Chittister, Chittister. She has a whole bunch of books. But this one, there's a different theme for each month. And then there's just a little meditation for every day.
Okay.
Right now, and I go through different books that I read. Right now, in the mornings, I'm reading You Are Beloved. Daily Meditations for Spiritual Living. I know you know Andre Nouwen.
Yeah.
That's one of the books. And I'm telling you, Toni, it just ministers to my soul. It just connects me with God in such a way that brings me peace. And let me say this, and I'm talking fast now because I know we got to hurry up. The discipline of creating space, whether you do it in the morning or at night, for me though, by doing it in the morning, it orders my day. Okay. And I tell you, and this is not to say that my day is without issues.
Or
but I tell you, it orders my day to the extent that whatever happens that day, I have the assurance God can handle it.
Okay.
If I get emotionally bent out of shape, God is telling me what I need to do in order to, you know, like just right now, I promise you, God is speaking to me and saying, when you finish this, you need to go and take a walk.
Okay.
I don't walk, Dr. Toni. But I'm going to go and take a walk because God is saying, I'm going to say something to you in this walking. And this is a whole other dynamic here because I would imagine with you and your walking, that's a discipline where you're hearing God. And
it is. And I tell people all the time, when I work out, I hear God. It's not just me physically, but it is a spiritual experience for me. My exercise is a spiritual experience. Like this morning, I was running up Stone Mountain, and as I was running,
running up Stone Mountain.
Yeah, there's just this one little hill that I ran. I ain't run the whole mountain, but there's this one little place in the mountain that I ran, right? And so, and I didn't run fast, but you didn't. But I'm running up the mountain, and as I'm running up the mountain, I'm leaning as it gets steeper. In order for me to get up the mountain, I have to lean in. I have to press in. And so, when I got up to the top, I was with two other ladies that we walk and we run together. When I got up to the top, and they was like, "You did that," and I said, "Yeah, but I had to lean in." And immediately when I heard myself say that, the Holy Spirit said, "That's the way, that's what I want you to do with me. I want you to press into me, lean into me." So and when you think about it, when we read scripture, Dr. Ingram, Reverend Jessica, come on, how many times does Paul and the writers use athletic games to describe the Christian walk and the Christian
Right, absolutely. So when you talk about what the disciplines are, and then we don't think about this, but learning to be still.
The discipline of being still. Come on.
Being still. Of ceasing activity, of literally doing nothing. And that is something during this pandemic that I have taken on. Before the pandemic, my husband and I used to say, all we do is pack and unpack because we literally traveled all the time. There were weeks when we were in 3 and 4 different hotels in 1 week. And then let me tell you this, I have to ask God for forgiveness because So I confess that there were Sundays that I didn't go to church because if we're in an annual conference, in the course of a week, I would be in 10 to 12 worship services. And I would say, I've been in enough service to last until Jesus comes. I would do anything to be in worship now. I would do anything. I said, Lord, please forgive me for those times that I didn't go to church. But my point is, since our life has slowed down, now we're still working, but we're not traveling like we were. We're not getting up and going to the office.
There's some things, Dr. Ingram,
I
don't miss. And guess what? I'm not going back to.
You're not going. That's a whole other conversation.
Bishop Alvarado said to me the other day, he said, we're never going back to having Bible study every Wednesday where we got to drag people out the house. We have more people attending Bible studies in this pandemic than we've had since the beginning of the ministry, because we're doing it from home, online, or we do like 1 month we'll go into the sanctuary and do something from there, and then the other month we do it from home. But the whole idea of having to bring the whole church out and it was hard. People got to get off work. They got to they got to get their family together. So I mean, we're wearing ourselves out for what? For what? And he's like, we're not going back to that. I'm telling you, all those services and all that. Some of that stuff, and what we found out in this pandemic, that some of those things that we were doing, we didn't even really need to be doing.
Well, let me get my thought back. So with the slowing down of our going out as much as we have been, then we have been given an opportunity to practice silence, to be still. And so I've learned, I'm blessed to live in a house where if I turn this camera, you would see that I have a lot of windows and I'm looking out on all these trees, and there's a little body of water there. And so I've learned to just sit in my chair, not read, just be quiet. We've got to learn to take more seriously the scripture that we know by memory. Be still.
And know.
But we think it says get busy and know. We think it says do more and know. We think it says take on more ministry activities and know. It says be still
and know.
You heard the song, Brian Courtney's song, This Time.
Yeah.
I will be still. This time. And that's what I want to be about. No, that's what I am about. But in my next season, I really want to be about helping us who are leaders in this church, those of us that are called with these great anointings on our life and all these opportunities that we have. And God is saying, I'm not impressed. I'm not impressed at all. I said, I want to spend some time with you. This time, I will be still. You done got me all worked up now, Dr.
Girl, I'm telling you, you preaching. I'm like, okay, so I wrote down at least 6 disciplines that you gave us today. You gave us the discipline of creating space for God, the discipline of time with God. And I imagine that creating space for God includes literal space, like maybe a place in our home, a chair or something. Like I'm working on I just talked to one of my aunts the other day. I'm working on, I want to build in my yard a prayer garden.
Oh, wow.
With some flowers, and I want to get like a little water fountain and sit.
That would be so nice and peaceful.
And my aunt likes planting flowers, so I've talked to her about helping me build a space outside, because I like being outdoors. And then of course I have a space. I have a prayer room. There's a chair, one of my favorite chairs in my house, and I'll go there. But that a space, do you think a literal space at time? You mean that is a literal space?
Creating space, literally having it, like you said, you got a prayer room. If I turn the camera, you would see the chair where I go every morning and sit.
Okay.
And so
Okay.
it is, yes.
Okay. So I wrote creating a sacred space for God, the discipline of time with God, because once you create the space, you got to spend time there.
Got to spend time.
The discipline of journaling.
Yes.
And I just wrote in here, Dr. Renita Ring's quote, write until it hurts and write until you heal.
Mm-hmm.
And then the discipline of reading, spiritual reading.
Yes.
And the discipline of being still and the discipline of silence. You gave us 6 things right here that if we just do these things.
And may I say this, Toni, for me, all of that segues us into when we actually engage in prayer.
Okay. Okay.
Because it helps to prepare the connection with God.
Okay. So all
we don't just jump up in there. And
we just
jump up in there with all this stuff.
And that's number 7. So number 7 is the discipline of prayer. But everything else prepares us for that.
That's it.
Oh, I love it. You know you just outline for a book, right? You do know this.
But send me those notes because I won't remember what I said.
And listen to everybody that's listening. This came from Dr. Ingram. So don't be trying to steal her outline. Don't be trying to steal her outline, and then we see you putting this out there. Trademark this. This came from Dr. Jessica Kingdom Ingram. And this is going to be on my YouTube channel. So everybody in the world will know.
Thank you, Toni. I'm Dr. Toni. This is so special.
This is an outline.
Can I tell you, you don't realize what this is doing for me and the confirmation and the affirmation that it has given me. This is so very God. This is so very divine. And I'm just blown away. And I just have so much admiration for you. And I met you years ago. And to see how you've grown and the confidence in who you are in God and the gifts that you have for the kingdom and how you're moving through it with such intentionality and all, and the thousands of people that you're blessing, I just am at a place of tears, really.
I told someone yesterday, it comes with work, though. It's.
Oh yeah, you gotta be willing to work. You can't.
It took me years to get here. Years, a lot of tears, a lot of work, a lot of therapy, a lot of, just talking to people like you, all of that, talking to myself, talking to God, doing all this. But this right here, you just blessed us, and that's why I knew I had to have you on here. This podcast, this month is the month of May. This is Mental Health Awareness Month, and I just believe that if we do this, today we're talking about mental self-care. We're talking about spiritual formation and self-care. You cannot do self-care and neglect your spiritual life. It's the Peter Scarswell says it's the anchor of our existence.
Yes, the anchor. Yes,
it's the anchor of our existence, our spiritual life. And so I thank you, Dr. Ingram.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for being on our podcast. Well, I'm going to let you give us one final word, but I want to give a couple of shout outs to so people will know where to find you. If you're just tuning in, I first want you to know that you are listening to and watching. If you're on YouTube, you are watching the Harmonize Your Life Conversations on Self-Care for Women of Color podcast with your host, Dr. Toni G. Alvarado. You can find this podcast on Apple Podcasts, on Google, on Spotify. If you're listening on Anchor, you can find us. You can also find this podcast on my YouTube channel. Won't you go there, like and subscribe my YouTube channel so you'll always get notifications when I drop a video or when the podcast is uploaded. You'll get notifications. So just go to my YouTube channel, like and subscribe. And those of you that are following me, follow me through my YouTube channel. Follow me on Anchor, on Spotify, on Google Podcasts. Women, We are in the midst of a fitness challenge. If you want to get fit, I want you to follow me on through our fitness challenge. You can go to my website at drtonyalvarado.com and you can get the information for the fitness challenge. It is up there. We start with our eating because weight is lost in the kitchen. So we talk about our healthy eating. I give you some specific exercises that you can do throughout the month. And then Dr. Ingram, I have the women journaling every night. Journaling is a part of the fitness challenge because I believe that we need to document and how we're feeling and what God is doing in and through us in this fitness challenge and what God is saying to us in this season. I want you to know that you can go there and get the Harmony Fitness Apparel. I launched a fitness apparel line as a part of what I'm doing in health and wellness and with the Harmonize Your Life Women's Self-Care Network. You can go there and order your t-shirt and your workout leggings and your bling shirt because you can be cute while you work out now. You don't have to look a mess. You can be cute and before, during, and after. So go there and purchase some of our fitness gear and fitness apparel. Dr. Ingram, I'm going to send you yours. I'm gifting this for Mother's Day. I'm sending you a whole self-care kit with legs.
You have a size for big women?
Yes, I do. So when we get done, I'm gonna get your sizes, and that's gonna be my gift to you for coming on the podcast. Okay, that's gonna be my gift to you and Mother's Day gift to you. Okay,
Thank you.
Mother's Day. Happy Mother's Day, women. If you've not joined us, join the Harmonize Your Life Self-Care Network. God has commissioned me to start a movement for women of color in this space: health, wellness, fitness, self-care, wholeness. We are a group of women who are concerned about self-care for women of color. We are not leaving out other women, but we are specifically targeted to this community because we believe we don't have to be number one in every disease like we are right now. We don't have to be number one in heart disease, different cancers, diabetes, mental illness, and other issues that we have that are related to lifestyle and maybe some things that even systemic that have been targeted to our community, but we can fight back. And I believe that self-care is an act of resistance to the culture and what people want to put on us. And we don't have to carry everything. We don't have to carry everybody on our back. We don't have to be a strong Black woman and die before our time without reaching our full destiny and purpose. So come along with us in the Self-Care Network. Join the Self-Care Network and let me and the women that are part of this network help you. My guest today is Dr. Jessica Kendall Ingram. I want you to follow her. She is right now, but you better catch her soon because she's getting ready to retire.
She's getting out of there.
She is the supervisor, Episcopal Supervisor for the First Episcopal District of the AME Church. I have been a part of many of her events in that district. She and Bishop Ingram are phenomenal leaders in that district. They are getting ready to retire, and she has some wonderful things that are coming. So I want you to follow her on Facebook at Jessica Ingram. You can find her on Instagram at Supervisor. Did we got that right? JKI, Supervisor JKI. And she's also on Twitter. I want you to look her up on Twitter as well. She has 3 books. You can go and find her so you can get her books: The Journey Inward, Still on the Journey, and A Journey in the Experience of Prayer. When she gets done with when she retires, she has some new work that's coming in spiritual direction. She's going to have her own website, so you can go there and order her books, sign up for her retreats, sign up to be trained as a spiritual companion, or sign up for anything that she's doing. I promise you, God is not through with the Reverend Dr. Jessica Ingram. She is but she is not done. She's just shifting and moving and getting in another gear. And I'm looking forward to all that God is going to do in and through her. Look for her new book that's coming out based on this outline that she in this podcast. Y'all heard it first right here on Dr. Toni's podcast. So when the book comes out, you can say, yep, I knew it was coming because I heard it on the podcast. All right. Dr. Ingram, I'm going to come out for a minute and I'm going to make you the center of the conversation for a moment. I'm gonna remove myself, and I want you to give us one final word. Okay?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, go ahead.
Let me just say, this has been an exhilarating experience, and I am just super excited and inspired. I guess that the final thing that I would like to say to all is, I'm teaching a workshop later on today for Dr. Joanne Brown, and it's about the myth of us being strong Black women. And I'm saying to us that as women, we don't have to be strong. Take time to be weak in the presence of God. Take time to be weak, to be transparent, to be authentic, to be real in the presence of God. I declare it will help you to harmonize your life. Please look for me in my next, after July the 10th, I am retiring. Look for the Ingram Difference. And I know that God in your life will make the difference. God bless you, and thank you so very much, Dr. Toni Alvarado.
Now y'all see why I had to have the Reverend Dr. Jessica Kendall Ingram on the Harmonize Your Life podcast. Thank you for being with us this week, and we look forward to having you again with us on next week. Have a great week. Hi, this is Dr. Toni Alvarado. I am so delighted about bringing the Harmonize Your Life podcast to you. Would you do me a favor? If you are enjoying this podcast, would you email me at hello@drtonyalvarado.com? I want to hear from you. I want your feedback. I want to know if there are any other topics that you are interested in as it relates to wellness, self-care, nutrition, or just overall bringing harmony into your life. Email me, contact me at hello@drtonyalvarado.com.